So, we are at the point where the Viceroy, the second in command, wakes up. And tonight we're going to do a few different things. We're going to try to, Hashem always aligns everything, and we're going to discuss that to what we really need in our own lives. And this week's parsha is about a journey. So it couldn't be any more apropos to what we're about to see in this little thing here. And so we might not make movement tonight, or not make like lateral movement, like forward in the story so much, but we're going to try to get some pieces together about what's going on. Let's just backtrack a little bit. Right, we ended last week with the words, right? Heichan ani ba'olam, where am I in the world? Right? Where am I in the world? He wakes up after 70 years of sleeping. After the soldiers walk past him with the princess. And he's like, where am I in the world? And we discussed the idea of the lack of fusion between the physical and the spiritual. Right? And that's a very important. In Galut, in exile, the Jewish people were relegated to either choosing spiritual paths or physical paths. And the vessels that we need to control the light in the world were not really there. So things were created in a way that, or went on a way in a very exile or exilic sort of form. And when we're Eretz Yisrael, it's the first moment we can come and actually fuse the two concepts together, which is what we talked about of the misharet, the servant hiding, which is the goof, the physical body hiding when the Viceroy is asleep, because if the soul, I'm asleep and my heart's beating, it doesn't really matter because I'm still asleep, and so the soul can't really do what it's supposed to do. Right? A soul is what? It's if you use the glass blower analogy that our Kaplan likes to use, that we understand from the Arizal and Nafesh Chaim, the soul is Hashem's breath into us. We know that we already understand it from the beginning of Genesis, right? Bereshit. That it's a continuum. And so when we're sleeping, we don't have interaction or access to that. We only get it when we're awake, spiritual awake. Right? Which happens oftentimes when we're physically asleep. Right? That's the duality, right? Rebbe Nachman loves this, right? Where it says, when you're physically asleep, you might be more awake spiritually. The idea is when you're actually physically awake, to be as awake spiritually as you should be. So, Eichan ani ba'olam, where am I in the world? And we discussed this last week, that it's a very powerful statement. It's one of the most powerful statements actually in the entire story, because that's what all of us have to ask. And Rebbe Nachman says that when one gets up, one should say, Heichan ani ba'olam, where am I in the world? Every morning. Should think to themselves. And then we're going to start now with this idea. And we're going to do this in two parts. Right, this is Likutei Moharan and Daled. He says a few places, but this Torah combines two aspects we need tonight. If to really guard, we've talked about this before, guard your memory. Guard your memory. So you don't fall into forgetting. Because that's the death of your heart. What's the heart? It teaches in another place. The heart is where godliness rests. It's the conduit for godliness in the world. Right? The heart is the heart in Makshava, which is really interesting. The heart and the thoughts, the idea of thinking, are actually aligned. Which is, what's the seichel, what's the intellect? It's not your Makshava. It's not your thoughts. It's a more powerful form of godliness. It's raw God energy. Unless it's blocked. Which, how does it get blocked? When you have the wrong makshavot, when you have the wrong thoughts in your heart, that blocks the intellect from actually doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's inside. And the main memory one should have is to remember constantly the world to come. Because that's the world we came from. That's the world we came from. The world we're going back to. So it's the idea of the cycle of running and returning. Like we talked about this before. In our own physical life here, there's a running and returning. Meaning running towards Hashem and returning back down to where we're at. It's a constant ups and downs. And so too in the cosmic sense. We're running and returning. We're running always back, trying to, our soul, right? The princess wants to go home. She wants to go home to the father. And yet, she's sent back down here. Constant. This is something the Western world, this is really gets to crux of the issue. You constantly remember there's another world beyond this world. And this is the whole issue of last week's Parsha, and really, like, I had a great discussion at my table last Shabbat. It's just not that bad. It's true. But in the verses, it doesn't look so, like, he's kind of taken advantage of. But there's one little hint, which is, I don't need that. I don't need that Bechorah, what's the Bechorah, what's the firstborn role, because there is no other world. All I have here is, I'm trying to die, right? He couldn't see the expanded universe behind this world. Right? He couldn't see it. So that was the nituk. It was a break in his consciousness. Just little subtle hint. Little subtle. Everything else is very vague in the verses, and these are the midrashim to play it out. But that explanation, that little comment he makes, is all you need to understand. There's a big chasm between him and what really was necessary for the Jewish people. But that's the whole point. Rebbe Nachman saying, listen, you have to remember there's Olam Haba. You have to remember you came from somewhere much grander and greater than you are now. And that means because if not, all you'll think is there's one world. It doesn't mean that there's not another world. It means that your consciousness, your way you go about your life, is wrapped up only in this world. The Western world believes there's a heaven. It doesn't believe it has anything to do with what we're doing here. It believes there's a world beyond this. It doesn't really understand it. It doesn't really care. It's not interesting to it. And therefore that's the emptiness that people find, because there's a chasm between the two things. When all that matters is what we're doing here, then that's what happens. I feel empty. That's what Esau represented. You could see it in the back and forth from him and Yaakov. Very subtle. And through attaching your thoughts to the world to come. That's enough here. That through this you make a oneness, a unity between you and Hashem. Because in that world, the world we came from, and we're going back to, there are no layers. There are no klipot. There's no barriers. Only in this world, because this is the world of work. This is the world of tough work that we have to do. Heichan ani ba'olam. He has to, because where am I in the world? I have to know where I stand about things to go forward. V'siper lo kol ma'aseh, the misharet, the servant, the body. So now that you're woken up, I'm going to tell you everything that happened while you were sleeping. Shechayalot, rabot, halchu, sham. And that there are many soldiers, they went there. Shahaitakan merkava. And there was a chariot, she was in the chariot. As was, or we already discussed, right? She came by in the chariot. He's repeating, because sometimes we need repetition. Sometimes we need to remember. Once again, remember. The servant's reminding him of everything he said. Listen, I watched. I was hiding. I watched what was going on. Right, and she Shahaita bocha alav, and she cried upon him. Find him. Haita tzoeket sheyesh rachmanut alav v'aleha. She cried and she screamed that is there like any mercy upon him? He's sleeping. Wants to listen. Tokach Hitzit Varash Pashtale Menachat Etzlo. It's the scarf that she lays down. Now, once again, it's to repeat that the princess that we understand is the soul. It's the shorish neshama. It's not just the soul, because we understand the viceroy. It's the kind of the active soul. The Shekhinah, she's the Shekhinah, but there's a Shekhinah in everything. It can be found everywhere. And it's the goal, is to find this journey. We have to journey to the Shekhinah, the divine presence within us. She's crying. She's, listen, let me out of here already. You know, how what's it going to take? Visha'alani asks, where's the scarf? Where's this? She wrote upon it with her tears. We're going to talk, like I said, this is very analogous to this week's Parsha for a variety of reasons. And everything I'm about to say is really from Rebbe Nachman to a certain extent, because Rebbe Nachman has a beautiful whole piece on this parsha, this Torah portion. He says, I'm going to paraphrase, everything is long, but he ultimately says that the Yaakov, first of all, Yaakov is each one of us. Yaakov is each one of us. And Yaakov gets up and he goes where? He leaves on a journey from Beersheba. What does Yitzhak and Rivka tell him in last week's parsha? To go find yourself a zivug. Find yourself a wife. By Lavan. Go find yourself a wife there. Go there. Find the princess. It's powerful. Huh? It's exactly. I've said this over and over again. When Rebbe Nachman says these are the stories from the ancient days, he's saying these are paradigmical stories, or archetypal stories that the entire Torahs we have are based on a sort of this primordial concepts. Doesn't mean that historically it's not accurate. It just means that when it was given over to Moshe, it was built in a way to get across these ideas. You know, I often have these discussions at Shabbat where, you know, why aren't the Avot perfect? They constantly, mistakes, right? And there's a lot of longer explanations for this, but because the world's not perfect. The world's not perfect. And that the journey, just like his journey, the Viceroy, how many times does he mess up? We're about to see him not mess up anymore. But how many times did he mess up? So plenty of times he didn't know where he was going. He didn't really have a roadmap. Look at the Avot. It's exactly the same way. Just as a side point. And so Yaakov goes on this journey, and he leaves Beersheba, and Beersheba is the Be'er Sheva. It's the seven midot. Mm-hmm. So he's going to try to get to the next level now. That's like in each one of us. We yearn to get to the next level, to find the Shekhinah, the divine presence. Like in this, to find the princess. He's leaving the comfort of his seven midot that he's already built up, the seven character traits. The Zer Ampin in Kabbalah, right? The second half of the Yud Kei Vav Kei, the Vav Hey. He's going to try to find that and discover and uplift it from where it is in Beersheba. So he goes and he meets Hashem in Beit El. And he sees the secret is, the Sulam Yaakov, is that things are always going up and down in life. There's other explanations, but in this idea that he sees that Hashem is the makom of place of the world. Oh, I didn't know Hashem was in this place. What does it mean? I didn't know that everything is Hashem. There's nothing but Him. Like I didn't interact with it yet. And now I understand that everything I'm interacting with is really Hashem's relationship with me. And so he sees the Sulam, because that's the key to understanding how Avodas Hashem works, how we have to interact with the Creator. Is that sometimes we go up every darga, which is the rung of the ladder, sometimes we go down, but it's always about trying to get close to Hashem. Sometimes we go down, sometimes we go up. It's once again that running and returning that we're after. We have to know how to do it. And where does he see this sort of vision of, some people say it's a vision of the four kingdoms, the four exiles. Some people say some midrashim say that it's always at night. which is where everything kind of like is chaos and darkness, and so he's seeing this in this sort of situation, and all of us have that situation too. You know, when it's darkest is when we have to reach out to Chodesh Baruch Hu. And he continues on, and he goes, and he meets Rachel Imenu, and that's his zivug, and everything is great, right? And that's the first princess he has to rescue. And that's like that's this whole story. And then he meets another one, Leah, and she's crying. She's crying, right? What is she crying about? Anybody know?
Because they were supposed to marry Esau.
Supposed to marry Esau. Yeah. What does her marrying Esau have to do? Like, what's going on? What's that have to do with our story? She's crying, right? She's trying to wake the viceroy up. Get me out of here. Who's the real princess? Yes, they're asking. Both of them really are. Mm-hmm. Out of Lavan, right? Mm-hmm. Out of Lavan. But the fact is both of them represent parts of the Shekhinah, and Leah is crying to get out of Esau. She doesn't want to be trapped in a world of the no good. Yeah. She doesn't want to be trapped in the world where there's just emptiness and I can't see what's really going on. So she's crying. She's crying over the viceroy to get me out of here. And then he comes. And even what Laban didn't understand what he was doing, and he mixed everything up on purpose to trap Yaakov, what he allowed to have happen is both of them could be retrieved from this situation. And it's true, what's interesting, and just a side point, is who ends up being the one that cries all these years. Which is we've discussed before. It's the Kotel Ma'aravi. It's the same Rashi Tevot. We discussed this before. So these are two levels of the princess crying over the viceroy. The same thing. I want to get out. I want to move on. I don't want to be stuck with Lavan. Right. Interesting. We understand that Naval with Avigail. Yeah, it's the same letter spelled backwards. We understand it's known, the sages said that he was a Gilgul of Lavan. Oh. Yeah. There's further depth to that. I don't want to spend too much depth on what else was going on there, but we understand what was Dovid Mark doing. He retrieved Avigail from the clutches of Naval. It's the same idea over and over again, that we see this sort of retrieval of the divine presence, which is always embodied by a woman being trapped by a place of the no good. So she cries in a scarf. Now we're gonna go back to Likutei Moharan, and I can never remember exactly who we've learned this with, but it's okay because it's in the first Likutei Moharan, so it's clearly super important. All Likutei Moharan is important, but this is super important. It says Ki ish Yisraeli sarich tamid li'istakil ba'aseichel shel kol davar u'lukasher atzmo hachma va'aseichel sheyesh b'kol davar. Because a person, an ish Yisraeli, an Israeli person, needs to always investigate, to look into the intellect. I'll explain what this is, of everything. It's in everything. And to attach himself to the wisdom and the intellect that's in everything. Because in order that the seichel, the intellect that is in everything, will lighten up, will give a burst of light, enlighten him, and to draw him closer to Karev Hashem Yitbarach Ayidei Oto Davar, and that will draw him close. Will draw him close to Hashem. Meaning one needs to look into the world and see the seichel. What seichel? The godly seichel, the godly intellect that is found behind everything. I'm going to skip real quick because there's a lot of Kabbalah there, and we're going to go and just say what happens if someone doesn't want to do this. He says, אבל מי שאינו מקשר עצמו אל השכל והחוכמה והחיות שיש בכל דבר, זה בחינת עשיו. Someone who does not want to attach himself, connect himself to the intellect and the wisdom and the life force, all godly, right? All these things are the godly part of this. Not just, we're not talking about scientific stuff, we're talking about we'll discuss it soon, the supernal intellect, the light which is causing all this to be. So he doesn't want to attach himself to that. He doesn't want to take the time to actually try to live in a God conscious sort of way. He is a aspect of Esav. He falls into the side of Esav. Like I said, it's a very fine line between Yaakov and Esav. It's not such a big, which causes them to diverge. Now, I'm priming something obviously here, so that's why I'm taking the time. What's this seichel, this intellect that's in everything? What's he mean? You can think, you can interpret it like we have to see deeper ideas in the Bria and the creation, and wow, there's DNA, and there's a lot of people that unfortunately interpret it that way. It's very, very clear that's not what he's talking about, and it's very clear in lesson 34, which we have already read about Olam Haba, what he's saying. Okay, let's skip further down there. V'chol yom, and every day, yesh bo makshava dibur ma'aseh, and every day there is in him, a thought, speech, and action. V'hakodesh baruch hu mitzamtzem elokuto me'en sof ad en el tachli. Hashem restricts his presence to a little ad nikudat merkaz sha'olam gashmi, to a little fine point in the center of the universe, meaning we can't access it. It just means we just can't access pure godliness, because we discussed this before, we just won't exist. So he restricts himself. Umazmin lo l'chol adam machshava dibur ma'aseh lefi hayom lefi ma'adam lefi makom. And he gives people, to everybody, thought, speech, and action according to the day, and according to the person, and according to the place. Right? That everybody in the universe is being given messages and inspiration and ideas for them through the Bria, through the creation. Hashem speaks to us in our own journey through what's happening to us that day. Okay, we'll go on. Doesn't say he encloses it with all the things happening, right? In thoughts he's getting, and things happening to him, and people speaking to him. That's how. So the seichel shebachol davar is to go out of a conscious relationship with the creation. A conscious relationship to understand that Hashem is literally speaking to the creation, to each one of us. And that's what Esav, back to Esav, one who doesn't believe in this or doesn't want to have this relationship with the creation is like Esav. It detaches himself from the godly light that's in everything, and therefore creates this kingdom of evil, which is the kingdom of Esav, which in today's world is all the nice things we talked about, disconnection, all the sorts of things that they're trying to throw at us all the time. And so now we're going to move on, but I did this for a reason. We're going to see what the Viceroy does. Remember, she cries on the scarf. Mm-hmm. She gives him the scarf filled with tears. Rachel b'cha al b'neha. Or if you're in Leah, before Yaakov says she's crying to get out of it, it's still the same idea. She's crying because tears, Rebbe Nachman teaches that Leah's tears is what brought about her geula, her redemption. The tears crying, genuine crying over your situation, will bring you a Yeshua, redemption, as opposed to Esav, who cried when he didn't get what he wanted, and that's false tears. That's false tears. And so he takes it. The herimota keneged shemesh. He puts it up to the shemesh, the sun. And in the same lesson number 1, I didn't cover it. I skipped a little bit. The wisdom, godly wisdom, is analogous to the sun. It shines on everything. And the moon is the vessel, which is in each one of us, to receive it. And so if we don't want to be attached to, once again, the godly wisdom, what happens is we're a moon that's empty. That's, once again, that's Esav. So he takes this scarf, this pachat, right, and puts it up to the sun with her tears on, and all of a sudden he sees what he needed to see. He sees what he needed to see. That's the seichel shebechol davar. That's the godly intellect that's in everything. That behind the images that we see in our lives are the messages of the Creator. Right? I've always said there's no intermediary. You don't need one. Because if you really try to have a relationship with the Creator, that's the godliness that's given over to us. And you can just have a relationship. It takes time. That's a lot of people do it. But that is what he's trying. That's what happens. He raises up the sun, and he sees for the first time some direction here. He wrote otiyot. He begins to see letters. What letters? That's what makes up the creation is letters. The world, the God created the universe with letters. The Karamash Katuv Sham, and he read what was there. Ko Kabalta V'Sa'akata. All her desperation and crying and screaming is embedded in these letters. This is Rachel Mivacha Benaha. Shike'et enena. What is she speaking to him? Shike'et enena sham mivisar. And in this moment, so she's not in the mivsar. She's not in the castle anymore. Not in the fortress. I moved on. He's staying outside the fortress. She's not there anymore. I mean, that's where you'll find me there. You're gonna find me in a mountain of gold and a fortress of pearls. That's where I am. Now we're gonna move on. And he leaves the goof behind, he leaves the servant behind. Now he's gonna do some serious stuff. And the viceroy, second in command, leaves the servant, and he goes alone to find her. It's not a physical journey anymore. The journey has changed. V'halach, and he went, Kama Shani Levaksha V'yishev Atzmo. Shebevadai V'yishuv Lo Nimsa Har Shel Zahav V'mivsar Shel Magolia Ki Hu Baki V'mapat Ha'olam. And he thought to himself, right, it's interesting, V'yishev Atzmo, we have this word a lot, V'yishev, Miyashev. And once again, Yeshuv. It's always the same play. Early on, Yeshuv, Yashev. It's not he thought to himself. He settled. He was traveling many years in all these places, looking from town to town, city to city for this wild thing. And then he realized, right, because the Yashev is he was settled in his dot, in his contemplated. And he says, certainly be Yeshuv, certainly in the Yeshuv, place of contemplation. That's when you're settled with yourself, this thing isn't going to be found. What's a Yeshuv also? We understand a Yeshuv is a place of being built up. There's inbuilt more is there, the way people think, the way people act. And he's looking for something completely different. And how does he know this? It's wild, huh? Ki hu baki b'mapat olam. Because he's an expert in the map of the whole world. Al kain elech el hamidbariyot. And this he said, I'm going to go to the deserts. The map of the world we understand here to be the physical structure of the universe. You know, Avraham Avinu was an astrologist. He was like, he could read the stars. And we understand that Hashem told him that it doesn't matter. That's how he didn't think, he read the stars. Where was my kid? I'm not going to have a kid. So I'm going to override that. I'm going to override Teva. I'm going to override nature. So in order to find the princess, in order to find the lost princess, the divine presence, is you have to be willing to override what you think the universe is. That's the map of the world. It's nowhere on a map of the world. There's nowhere in the map of the nowhere in the world, in the universe, the physical reality that we are in, that this castle exists. Because you have to be willing to step beyond the universe as you understand it to be and what you see with your eyes to be able to find her. So where does he go? He goes to the deserts. V'halach, and he went levaksha v'madbariot kama v'kama shanim, and he went there in the deserts many, many years. What's a midbar? It's the same word, same letters as Karen. You're good at this. Medaber. Medaber, to speak.
Yeah.
So he goes, listen, it's not working anymore. The way I was approaching this, I'm ready to find her. I believe I'll find her now. I'm ready to do it, but I've realized that this thing called the soul, this thing called purpose, this mission that I'm being sent down here on, it's not physical. It's not physical. It's not trapped up in the universe as we understand it to be. Because in all honesty, we already understand from Yaakov Avinu. What does it mean that Hashem? I didn't know Hashem was in this place. I mean, I didn't know that Hashem is in every place. That he goes, listen, the princess is everywhere. I just have to look for her inside. So what does he do? He goes, I'm going to speak now to Hashem for many years. I'm just refocusing this because it's really an analogy. He goes to the deserts for many years. Didn't we just learn that he knows the whole map of the world and there's no way this exists? Cause what's Rebbe Nachman teaching us? He's saying, listen, now it's time to go and speak to HaKadosh Baruch Hu about finding the princess. And he has we're gonna go further. And he has he has some success. He meets in the desert, meaning in that situation where now he's working on himself. He's getting rid of all the stuff that he had built up all those years. Because the only way you can really get anywhere, and that's the chiddush from Rebbe Nachman. We understand it. Rebbe Nachman is he says, maybe I won't go further. We'll just start on this point. But no, because we'll say. So Rebbe Nachman says, I'm prayer. I'm all about prayer. And that's why they went after me. Because the Yetzer Hara, the machloket, the argument always comes against something which is true, which is the highest thing. And so everybody at his time went against him because he said, "This got to talk to Hashem. That's the avodas Hashem. Start talking to First Baruch about everything."
So let's see what to do again in this
context. Yeah. No, that's right. There's no question about it. There's no question about it that all the movement we see the Viceroy make, right, is through Hibodedut here. From the time when he finds her originally. And it's parallel, right? He's traveling forest, fields, in the beginning, and he sees the path to the side, which we understand is Hibodedut. And only then does he find her in the castle. But he trips up. But that's what we do here. We fall. We get up and we fall. We fall asleep again. He was going there. He found her through Hibodedut. This isn't a chiddush what he's doing. It's just now he's ready to really do it. Now he's ready to really do it. It's not just a shvil to the side. It's not just a path to the side anymore. It's not hidden to him. Because I can't find her anywhere.
It's like Yaakov at Beit El.
Yeah, no, it's very similar. That whole thing is a journey. It's so obvious. It's the lost princess. It's so obvious. I mean, Lavan is the ultimate, klipa. And he tricks him, and he falls.
But Beit El, he's asleep physically, but that's when everything happens.
That's right. That's right. That's when he sees that it's all really a real deal.
It's running up and coming down. It's exactly this.
Yes. 100%. He leaves his goof behind, his body behind. But he can only get here by leaving the sharet behind. The servant behind. Because there's a point in time where you kind of say, listen, I'm going to get there, I'm going to get there. I'm going to find her, I'm going to find her. What's finding her? I'm going to discover who I really am. I'm supposed to be here. I'm going to leave all that behind. And we understand the world doesn't want us to do this. The world says, no, stick to the map, man. You know what you're doing. You have a college degree. Stick to the map. Get a job. I'm saying not to get a job. I'm saying that what's the focus, right? Mm-hmm. Career. What do you do, What do you do for a living? That's always the best one. No, that's not what do you do for a living. What do you do? So you have to be clever how you have to be clever how you answer that, right? Because if you answer, no, if you can answer like, I work doing this, or you can say, listen, I do A, B, C, and it has nothing to do with how Parnassa comes to me. It has nothing to do with that. Because if you're a bucky in the map, if you're stuck in the map, you will answer, I do A, B, C, D, F, G. I'm going to do, that's always and all of us have done this. I'm not saying I have any sort of, but that we fall into it. But if you're willing to step beyond the map of the world, the Viceroy is willing to step, that's when it all becomes really real. That's when you start speaking to Hashem, have a relationship, and that's the key to understanding the whole foundation is the seichel shebechol davar. How am I going to even understand, Father, what you want from me in the world? I can't understand the messages without speaking to Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's from here on out it becomes very, very, and it's important because we know that he's about to enter into the biggest test of all, which comes from a place which is most surprising. Right? This is serious tests coming up that we'll get to next week, but these are serious tests. Everything else before these tests were not really intellectual. Right? It wasn't a makshava test. It wasn't a test of thought, because he had the servant with him. It was a test of physical desires. But he's not going back to sleep now. So he's left the world of physical desires. Now comes the serious test. And that's why the Hibodedut here is so different than the Hibodedut before. Because in order to actually complete the task, the mission, you have to first get past the first level. which is very complex in today's world, as we all understand, right? It's like it's a world of desires. Is this one wrapped up in many, many different layers? But when we actually see that, the next test is the biggest of all. All right, have a good shot.